The Titans went to the AFC Championship game just this past year. They had 7 picks in the draft. Their biggest need has to be offensive line. They lost Jack Conklin in free agency. Their identity and their goal is to run the ball and be physical with you on the line of scrimmage. They have Derrick Henry. They signed him to a franchise tag. They have Ryan Tannehill back. We saw Ryan Tannehill was most effective when the running game was going. Derrick Henry got his legs going, and then all of a sudden they opened the play-action pass. So identify and get an offensive lineman or two, because guess what? Dennis Kelly, who they had on their team and signed basically to be the replacement for Jack Conklin, he's okay, but depth and security behind them would be big. And again, especially for a team that prides themselves and is so reliant on being physical at the line of scrimmage and running the ball and establishing the run first. So offensive line, you need to just keep on building a strength, keep making it stronger. Same thing with that on the flip side, defensive line. Mike Vrabel, again, has his identity built in physicality, offensively and especially on defensively. They're an attacking, physical defense. We saw that especially in the playoffs. They punched the Patriots in the mouth. They punched the Ravens in the mouth defensively, and those two teams couldn't keep up. So you get a guy on the defense line that could put pressure on the quarterback would be huge, right? They have a solid run D, but you get another pass rusher, especially on the interior. They traded Jarrell Casey to the Broncos, so you know, a D tackle could come in there to help them out. I think that would be huge. So both offensive, defensive lines get some physicality in there. And then I think cornerback, too. You really need some depth. You have Malcolm Butler, you have Adoree Jackson, but behind them, there's really nothing. And in this day and age in the NFL, you are playing with 3 corners on the field or 3 defensive backs on the field more times than not. So depth is key, but also having 2 corners, you really need 3 now in this league. That used to be the thing, 2 lockdown corners on the outside, you're set. You really need a guy now in the slot as well that can lock down a slot receiver. So definitely corner needs to be addressed. So I'll go offensive line, defensive line, and corner for the Titans. The Jaguars. So they remind me a lot of the Dolphins, and here's why. They have 12 picks, 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. The Dolphins had 14 picks, and again, a lot of them very high in the top 100. Jaguars, 7 picks in the first 4 rounds. They basically need everything. And what is their draft need? Best available player at every single position. We'll start, though, at least we'll give you 2 specifically that they really need to address with multiple picks, I think, in this draft. One is corner. They traded away a franchise corner in Jalen Ramsey. They traded away a second solid, legitimate cornerback in A.J. Bouye. So right now, they have no one. They need talent in that secondary. And as we know, again, a big lockdown secondary is huge, huge for helping your team win games, especially on the defensive side. The Jaguars had an identity when they were good of defense, stopping the run, stopping the pass. They need to get back to that. Corner would be a huge way. And again, with multiple picks to invest in that position, by having 12, they can afford to do that. And then defensive line, same thing with the corner. Everyone with talent and value has been gone. They just traded Calais Campbell to the Ravens. They're going to trade Yannick Ngakoue. He is right now franchise tagged, so he's going to play for 1 year. He's already made it known verbally on Twitter and publicly that he is not going to play for the Jaguars this year, and they better trade him. So you already traded away one great player in Calais Campbell. You're going to trade away at some point Yannick Ngakoue. So now you have basically no talent or help on the defensive line. Get some defensive linemen. There's a ton in this draft that can, not only get some pressure on the quarterback, but also be great in the run game. And you already have Josh Allen, who's an edge, outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid. You want to say similar to a little bit like Isaiah Simmons, a little less versatility. Get him someone that he can work with on the other side. Get him someone to complement his skills. So you either have a great interior pass rusher or you get someone on the edge on the other side to create some pressure. So while the Jaguars, they have 12 picks. They need help basically everywhere. They have least capital, and the 2 I would invest in heavily the most with multiple picks for the Jaguars is corner and defensive line. Get back to that identity that helped them get to the AFC title game and almost helped them get to the Super Bowl back in 2017. Defense, defense, defense. We go to the AFC West. This one is easy. The Chiefs. They have 5 picks. They really don't need help, and there's not many needs that they legitimately have to deal with and address. Shockingly, somehow, we always see teams that go to the Super Bowl have a mass exodus. A lot of players on free agent contracts get big contracts from other teams. They go chase the money. They got the ring, now they get the money. The Chiefs are returning 20 of their 22 starters from the Super Bowl. Think about that. 20 of the 22 starters that were starting the Super Bowl are coming back. So there's not a lot of areas you need to address. I think corner would be smart. They lost Kendall Fuller, one of the 2 starters they had that did not return to the Super Bowl team. And not to mention, depth would be, I think, a very wise decision for them to address. And it's something with defensive line. Their rush defense improved throughout the year, but that was by far their biggest Achilles heel, especially on the defensive side of the whole team. Now, they have Chris Jones, who is a great interior pass rusher. He's franchise tagged. We'll see if he plays. We have no clue what his motivation is. If he'll play it out and then become a free agent next year, if he'll demand a bigger deal and hold out. So right now, at least you can pencil Chris Jones into play on the interior line, but we don't really know what his motivation is if he's going to be willing to play. Address the defensive line, and again, the rush defense got better as the year went on. It still was not great. Get some interior guys to help stop the run, and that also will help the secondary on the back end as well, give them a little relief. And finally, offensive line. There's no glaring need here, but it's more for it down the line in the future. Invest now to protect your asset going forward. Patrick Mahomes has not gotten a deal yet. He will be, whenever that deal comes, be the highest paid player in the game. Not quarterback, ever. He's going to get that deal. He's going to be worth it. So you need now, if you're going to put all that money, all your eggs in that Patrick Mahomes basket, which he has already shown to be worth the money, you need to make sure you protect that assets at all costs. Because guess what? If Patrick Mahomes goes down with an injury, which he got injured and missed a few games last year with that dislocated knee, you need him healthy at all costs, because guess what? If he goes down, the team goes down. You need to protect your asset and protect all that money you have sitting in one player. Offensive line, get some depth just as a backup plan in case someone goes down or is ineffective. They can slide someone in to make sure Patrick Mahomes has the protection necessary. So again, when you're turning 2022 starters, you don't need a lot of help. But just add some depth to a few positions, especially on the defensive side, to shore up a weakness and make sure you protect Patrick Mahomes. That has to be the job now going forward. Broncos are interesting. They'll have 10 picks. I think, a big one they should really try to focus on early on is wide receiver. Drew Lock, it seems like they're going to go with him, and he's going to be their guy. We'll see how long the leash is, but at least going forward for this year, Drew Lock is going to be the franchise quarterback that hopefully, if you're a Broncos fan and if you're John Elway, he finally hits on. As we know, John Elway has been the worst, ironically, the worst quarterback evaluator of those coming out of college. He said on one quarterback, it's Peyton Manning. That's an easy one. Other than that, you have Trevor Siemian. You have Paxton Lynch. He tried for Joe Flacco. There are so many guys, specifically, though, in the draft, that he has swung and missed on to be the franchise guy that has not gotten it done. Pair Drew Lock, who, again, seems to be the guy, pair him with a receiver. He already has some decent weapons with Cortland Sutton, Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon at running back. You have Noah Fant at tight end, who they drafted in the first round last year. He has some talent there. Give him another receiver to go with Cortland Sutton. Help Drew Lock get as many weapons as possible for him to be as successful as possible. And again, if you're John Elway, I should say, where you think you already found your quarterback of the future, now give him the weapons he needs to be successful. Sticking with that, speaking of keeping and helping Drew Lock be successful, offensive line. Let's be real here. Garrett Bowles, their left tackle, stinks. He stinks. If there is a player that you needed a holding call on, Garrett Bowles is your guy. Any play, put him in there. You for whatever reason, you want your team to get a holding call, he's going to be the guy to get it done for you. He's on his last year of his rookie deal. Again, left tackle being so important. You could draft someone later on in the draft, have them develop to where they could take over maybe halfway through the year when Garrett Bowles has another 10 holding calls in a game, and you need to take him out, or if he leaves in free agency. So get some offensive line help to help protect Drew Lock. And more importantly, I think, address the cornerback position. Get some more depth. They got A.J. Bouye. We just talked about him getting traded from the Jaguars. They traded for him. But behind him, there's not much talent there, and there's not much depth there. Bryce Callahan got hurt last year. He's decent, but he want to make sure he's healthy. And you can never stockpile enough corners. That's, I would say corner and offensive line, maybe the two positions the most where you can never have enough talent at. There's always, you're always going to need more corners on the field. Players getting hurt. And especially now for a defensive head coach in Vic Fangio, doesn't hurt to have cornerback depth to where you can put 3 or 4 guys on the field at the same time, which you're going to need. I'm going with the Raiders here. They have 7 picks, but 5 of them are in the top 100. So they have some high draft picks. They have some legitimate chances to get some real impact players right away. Number 1, wide receiver. I know we talked about whether, maybe Tua would be a good fit for them. If Tua's not there, wide receiver. You had a number 1 target in Antonio Brown last year. Obviously, he went AWOL, didn't even make it to week 1 of the regular season. You have to, and they haven't been able to replace that. You have 3 stud wide receivers in Jerry Jeudy, CeeDee Lamb, Henry Ruggs. One of those 3 will be available to you, at least. Make it happen, get your guy, and have a bona fide number 1 for Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, whatever quarterback John Gruden wants to throw to. That has to be the guy. You need a number 1 receiver because you have a great running back in Josh Jacobs. You have a great tight end in Darren Waller. Get that number 1 receiver that is reliable, that you can throw to and get a first down at any point. Defensive back, I mean, talk about being desperate. The Raiders desperately need help at defensive back. They were putrid and atrocious last year in pass defense. Now they have an extra first-round pick. They have 2 from that Khalil Mack trade with the Bears. So they can use a first-round pick to get a corner. There are some legitimate cornerbacks here in the first round that the Raiders can get. They probably won't get Jeff Okudah, who will go early. Maybe you can get C.J. Henderson, who is now really starting to gain some steam. If you see, a lot of draft experts are saying he's going to go in the top 15, maybe in the top 10. See what happens if you can finagle, maybe trade your way up. But either way, get a defensive back to address just what was an awful, awful secondary last year and help get at least a stopper to start. And finally, I would go depth, honestly. Front 7 depth, more importantly. Max Crosby on the defensive line was a great find last year. They still have Cleveland Farrell, who they drafted high up last year as well. They made some nice signings in free agency. You got Corey Littleton, Carl Nassib, Nick Wachowski. So they dressed really the front 7. But to me, you still can't have enough depth in the front 7. We already put them needing a corner or 2. Front 7 depth, I think, is more important because also look at the division they're in. They have Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The best way to beat right now the Chiefs is by getting pressure through your front 4. Keep developing their front 7 depth. Keep getting linebackers that can cover Travis Kelce. Keep getting pass rushers that can get pressure on Patrick Mahomes by themselves. That's how you win. That's how you win your division. That should be the most important key and focus for the Raiders. How do we win our division? Well, that's going to be front 7. And you got to beat the teams right now that are at the top. That's the best way to beat the Chiefs. So front 7 depth, add pass rushers, add guys that can match up with the Chiefs and their weapons. And finally, wrap it up with the Chargers. They have 7 picks. And like I said earlier, we're talking about why Tua would be such a great fit. The Chargers don't have many glaring holes outside of the quarterback position, right? So obviously they need to fill that. I think Tua, if he's there, that should be their number 1 pick. If he is there, sitting there, if the Dolphins pass, they take another quarterback or they take another position. So you have either Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, or Tua. Take Tua. I think they have already the infrastructure necessary to keep him healthy and help him succeed. But either way, I think the offensive line, the way they address it in free agency, the weapons they have with Mike Williams, with Keenan Allen, with Hunter Henry, with Austin Eckler, whoever they draft, I think will be in a position to succeed. So quarterback for sure is their most glaring need. But also I would say running back too is another position they can address, but they can do this later on in the draft. They have Austin Eckler, which right now is your prototypical NFL running back. He's a great scat back. He can catch balls out of the backfield, very shifty, hard to take down. But really, we see in the NFL, you really need a 1-2 punch. Right now, Austin Eckler is a great 2. He's one of those guys, a change of pace guy. Again, you put him in the backfield, maybe give him a few runs, but for the most part, you throw the ball at him in the flat and have him do the most damage as a receiver. You need a ground and pound number 1 kind of guy that can run through the tackles to really establish the run. They had that in Melvin Gordon. Didn't want to pay him the money, which I agree with. He was asking too much. I let him go somewhere else to sign with Denver. There are some, legitimate pounders here in this draft. Zach Moss is a great guy from Utah who really runs hard between the tackles. Same thing with Cam Akers from Florida State. There's a ton of running back options, and luckily, at least for the Chargers, running backs aren't going to go high at all. Their value is being less and less as it is, so you will get a great steal talent-wise later on in the draft. And finally, similar to what I was just talking about with the Raiders, they could use some linebacker help and some serious depth help at the position. Because, again, you have some great tight end play here. And really now, linebacker, the position has kind of changed, right? It's obviously the linebacker used to be the guy that really helped stuff the run, be the guy to meet the running back in the hole, and be the kind of guy to help slow down the run game. Now, with teams running the ball less, with putting more speed on the field and having running backs that are less bruising and more blistering, you need a linebacker that can really run sideline to sideline, cover different people, whether it's a running back or a tight end, and be more athletic and fast than, let's say, powerful and strong, right? So they have to be strong, don't get me wrong, but it's more about speed and athleticism rather than, again, just pure brute strength. So now you look at the Chargers, they're in a division with great tight end play. Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, Noah Fant. You need an athletic linebacker that can stay with them, cover them down the field, and not allow them to have to create some big plays. So for me, at least, I think it would be very smart and very wise for the Chargers to invest in an athletic linebacker Get someone that can go sideline to sideline and slow down a lot of these great tight ends in the division.